The darkness of space surrounded the alien ship as it moved silently above Earth. Captain Vexthu stood on the bridge, his tall insect-like body perfectly still as he watched the blue planet below. His compound eyes reflected the light from dozens of screens showing data about the world beneath them. "Captain, we have found our target," said Dr. Kylara, the ship's lead scientist. She pointed to one of the screens with her thin, clawed finger. A single human male, driving alone on a road, far from any settlements. Vexthu nodded slowly. The Zephyrians had been watching Earth for 3 months now, studying the creatures that lived there. They called themselves humans. To the aliens, these beings looked weak and simple. They had only just begun to travel between planets, and their weapons were basic compared to what the Galactic Collective used. "Perfect," Vexthu said. "Begin the collection process." The target was Jake Martinez, 28 years old, driving his old pickup truck down a desert highway in Arizona. He had been working late at a construction site, building another shopping center in the growing city of Phoenix. Jake was tired, thinking about getting home to his small apartment and maybe watching some television before bed. He had no idea that alien eyes were watching him from above. The truck's radio played country music as Jake drove through the empty desert. The road stretched ahead of him, lit only by his headlights and the stars above. He took a sip from his coffee and checked the time on his phone. Nearly midnight. His girlfriend would already be asleep. High above, the Zephyrian ship moved into position. Dr. Kylara worked at her control station, preparing the tractor beam that would lift the human and his vehicle into their cargo bay. She had done this process dozens of times with creatures from other worlds. It was always the same. The subjects would panic, then become confused, then finally accept what was happening to them. "Humans appear to be very ordinary," she told Captain Vexthu. "Our scans show average intelligence, average physical strength, no special abilities. They should be easy to study." Vexthu agreed. The collective had rules about studying new species. They could only take a few subjects, study them carefully, then return them to their home world with their memories erased. The process was designed to be safe and cause no harm to the species being studied. "Begin transport," Vexthu ordered. Below, Jake noticed something strange. The stars above him seemed to be moving. He slowed his truck and looked up through the windshield. What he saw made no sense. A dark shape was blocking out the stars, and it was huge. The truck's engine suddenly stopped working. The radio went silent. Even his phone's screen went black. Jake felt a strange tingling in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Then, his truck began to rise. Jake gripped the steering wheel as his vehicle lifted off the road. He looked down and saw the desert falling away beneath him. The truck was surrounded by a blue glow, pulled upward by some invisible force. Most people would have screamed or panicked. Jake did neither. Instead, he studied what was happening to him. He looked at the glow around his truck, trying to understand how it worked. He watched the huge dark shape above him, noting its size and the way it moved. Even as fear ran through his body, his mind was working, gathering information. The truck disappeared into an opening in the bottom of the alien ship. Jake found himself in a large metal room filled with strange equipment. The blue glow faded, and his truck settled onto the floor with a soft thump. The air in the room felt different, but he could breathe. Lights came on around him, bright and white. Jake turned off his truck's engine and sat for a moment, thinking about what had just happened. He had been taken by something that was definitely not human. A door opened in the wall, and 2 creatures walked into the room. Jake's eyes widened as he saw them. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with long, thin arms and legs. Their skin looked like the shell of an insect, dark green and shiny. Their heads were triangular, with large compound eyes that reminded Jake of a fly's eyes. One of them spoke, and Jake heard words in his own language, though he could tell the sounds were being translated somehow. Human subject, please exit your vehicle. You will not be harmed. Jake opened his truck door and stepped out. He was not a big man, about average height and build, but he worked construction and was stronger than he looked. He faced the aliens calmly, his hands at his sides. "I'm Captain Vexthu," the first alien said. "This is Dr. Kylara. You have been selected for scientific study." Jake looked at both creatures carefully. He noticed how they moved, how they held themselves, where they kept their equipment. His mind was already working on the problem of where he was and how to get out. "You're not from Earth," Jake said. It was not a question. "Correct. We are from the Galactic Collective, an alliance of 47 intelligent species. We study new life forms to determine if they might pose a threat to galactic peace." Dr. Kylara stepped forward. "We will conduct several tests on you. Physical examinations, mental evaluations, behavioral studies. When we are finished, you will be returned to your planet with no memory of this experience." Jake nodded slowly. "And if I refuse?" "You cannot refuse," Vexthu said. "However, cooperation will make the process more comfortable for you." Jake looked around the room again. He saw the walls, the ceiling, the door the aliens had come through. He noticed the way the lights were attached to the ceiling, and the pattern of metal plates on the floor. Everything was being stored in his memory for later use. "Okay," Jake said. "I'll cooperate." The aliens seemed pleased by this response. "Doctor." Kylara made notes on a device that looked like a tablet computer. Vexthu gestured toward the door. "We will escort you to your quarters. You will be comfortable there while we prepare for the first tests." As they walked through the corridors of the ship, Jake continued to observe everything. He noticed how the walls were built, where the air was coming from, how the artificial gravity worked. The aliens thought they were leading a frightened primitive to his holding cell. They had no idea that Jake was conducting his own examination of them. Jake's cell was not what he expected. The room was clean and white, about the size of a hotel room. There was a bed, a small table, and what looked like a bathroom area. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of smooth metal, and the lighting came from panels in the ceiling. Dr. Kylara watched Jake through a window as he explored his new surroundings. She expected him to be afraid, maybe angry, or at least confused. Instead, Jake moved around the room like he was checking into a hotel. He tested the bed, looked at the walls, and even figured out how to use the alien toilet. "Interesting," she said to her assistant, a younger Zephyrian named Nixal. "Most subjects spend their first day crying or trying to break down the walls. This human is adapting very quickly." Jake found the environmental controls within an hour. The wall panel had symbols instead of words, but he pressed different buttons until he learned what each one did. Soon he had adjusted the temperature, lighting, and even the humidity to his liking. The next morning, Dr. Kylara began her first tests. She entered Jake's cell with 2 guards and her medical equipment. Jake sat on his bed, waiting calmly. "We will start with basic physical measurements," she told him. Jake stood up and allowed her to scan him with her devices. The readings that came back shocked her. According to her instruments, Jake's bones were much denser than they should be. His muscles were packed with fibers that could produce sudden bursts of incredible strength. His heart and lungs worked in a way that could keep him going under extreme stress. "This cannot be right," she said, checking her equipment. "Are you ill? Have you been injured recently?" Jake shook his head. "No, I'm perfectly healthy." "Why?" Dr. Kylara ran the scans again. The results were the same. Jake's body was built like a machine designed for survival and combat. His bones could take impacts that would shatter the skeletons of most collective species. His reflexes were 3 times faster than what she had expected. "Tell me about your daily activities on your world," she said. Jake shrugged. "I work construction. I build things. On weekends, I like to go hiking in the mountains or rock climbing. Sometimes I go to the gym and lift weights." Dr. Kalar made notes. Rock climbing meant Jake regularly hung from cliffs using only his hands. Hiking in mountains meant he could walk for miles carrying heavy equipment. Weight lifting meant he deliberately stressed his muscles to make them stronger. "Do you fight?" she asked. "I took martial arts classes when I was younger. Boxing, some jiu-jitsu. I don't look for trouble, but I can handle myself if someone starts something." The doctor felt a chill run through her insect-like body. Jake spoke about violence as casually as discussing the weather. She had studied dozens of species, and none of them talked about fighting with such calm acceptance. The psychological tests were even more disturbing. Chief Psychologist Mordon came to evaluate Jake's mental state. He expected to find a confused, frightened creature struggling to understand what had happened to him. Instead, he found Jake sitting at the small table, having organized the items in his cell into neat rows. The human had taken apart the bed frame and reassembled it, apparently just to see how it worked. He had also tested the strength of the walls by pushing against them. "Hello," Jake said when Mordon entered. "You must be the psychologist." "I was wondering when you'd show up." Mordon sat across from Jake and activated his recording device. "How are you feeling about your situation?" "Well, I've been kidnapped by aliens and I'm being held prisoner on a spaceship," Jake said. "I'd rather be home, but there's not much I can do about it right now, so I'm making the best of things." "You seemed remarkably calm," Jake smiled. "Panicking won't help me. I need to understand where I am, who you people are, and what you want from me. Then I can figure out how to get home." Morden felt something cold in his stomach. Jake was not asking if he could go home. He was planning how to make it happen. "Tell me about your species," Mordon said. "How do humans handle conflict?" Jake leaned back in his chair. "That's a big question. I guess we're pretty good at fighting when we have to. We've had a lot of practice." "Practice?" "Wars, mostly. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten pretty good at it." Jake's tone was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing a hobby. "We fight over territory, resources, ideas, religion. Sometimes we fight just because we don't like each other." Mordon's compound eyes widened. The collective species had evolved past warfare centuries ago. The idea of intelligent beings fighting each other was horrifying to him. "But surely your people have moved beyond such primitive behavior?" Jake laughed. "Are you kidding? We've got wars going on right now. Big ones, small ones, secret ones. We've got weapons that can destroy entire cities. Hell, we've got weapons that could crack a planet in half. Why would you create such terrible things?" "Because the other guy might create them first." Jake's expression became serious. "Look, I don't like war. Most humans don't. But we know that sometimes you have to fight or die. So we make sure we're ready." Dr. Kylara reviewed Jake's test results with Captain Vexthu that evening. The data was deeply troubling. "His pain tolerance is remarkable," she reported. During the medical procedures, his stress hormones barely increased. Most subjects would be unconscious from the discomfort. "What about his intelligence?" Vexthu asked. "Higher than our initial estimates. Much higher. He's been studying our technology, learning how our systems work. This morning, I found him testing the lock on his cell door." Vexthu felt a flutter of worry. Testing it how? He was trying to understand the mechanism. He didn't try to break it or force it open. He was learning how it operated. Commander Zarek joined their discussion. He had been reviewing Earth's databases, trying to learn more about human society. "Captain, I have disturbing news. The humans are not the primitive species we believe them to be." Vexthu turned to face his second-in-command. "Explain." "There. History is filled with violence. They have destroyed every other intelligent species that evolved on their planet. They have fought continuous wars for their entire recorded history. They have created weapons of mass destruction and used them against each other." Dr. Kailara felt sick. "But they seem so ordinary." "That may be the most frightening thing about them," Zarek said. "They have turned killing into a science. They study warfare like we study mathematics. They train their young to fight from childhood." "One human cannot be that dangerous," Vexthu said, but his voice lacked confidence. "Captain," Zarek said quietly, "I accessed their military databases. A single human soldier carries enough firepower to level a small city. Their special forces are trained to operate alone behind enemy lines for weeks or months. They can kill, with their bare hands or with weapons we cannot even detect." Dr. Kailara thought about Jake's calm demeanor, his careful observation of everything around him, his casual mention of violence. "What have we brought aboard our ship?" Vexthu stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. Earth hung in the distance, blue and peaceful looking. He had thought it was a harmless world inhabited by simple creatures. "We have made a mistake," he said softly. "A very serious mistake." On the third day, Dr. Kailara decided to try a different approach with Jake. Instead of formal tests, she would have casual conversations with him. She hoped to learn more about human culture and behavior through simple talk. Jake seemed happy to chat. He sat on his bed while she took notes, speaking about his life on Earth as if he were talking to a friend. "What do humans do for entertainment?" she asked. Jake smiled. "Lots of things. We watch sports, mostly. Football, boxing, mixed martial arts. People love watching other people fight." Dr. Kailara felt her stomach turn. "You enjoy watching violence?" "Sure, it's exciting. Two people testing their skills against each other, seeing who's stronger or faster or smarter." Jake's eyes lit up as he spoke. "Some of the best fights are when someone gets hurt, but keeps going anyway. That takes real courage." "What about nonviolent entertainment?" Jake thought for a moment. "Well, our movies and TV shows are pretty violent too. Action movies, war films, crime dramas. People love stories about heroes who fight against bad guys." "Do you not have peaceful entertainment?" "Some people like romantic comedies, I guess. But even those usually have some kind of conflict. Humans like stories with struggle and challenge." Jake leaned forward. "What do your people do for fun?" "Doctor." Kailara was quiet for a moment. Zephyrian entertainment involved music, mathematical puzzles, and philosophical discussions. The idea of watching beings hurt each other was sickening to her. "We prefer calmer activities," she said. Jake nodded. "Different cultures, I suppose. Tell me about your people. How do you handle disagreements?" "We discuss them. We find compromise. Violence is never necessary among civilized beings." Jake's expression became thoughtful. "That's interesting. Humans tried that approach for a while, but it didn't work out so well." "What do you mean?" "Well, talking only works if both sides want to talk. Sometimes you run into people who just want to take what you have. When that happens, you either fight or you lose everything." Dr. Kailara made more notes. Jake spoke about violence and conflict as if they were natural parts of life. To her, they were unthinkable horrors. "Tell me about human recreation," she sighed, changing the subject. Jake's face brightened. "Oh, we love dangerous sports. Rock climbing, skydiving, motorcycle racing, extreme skiing. The more dangerous, the more fun it is. Why would you deliberately put yourself in danger? Because it's exciting. It makes you feel alive. There's nothing like hanging from a cliff face by your fingertips, knowing that one mistake means you fall to your death. Dr. Kyle Ara stared at him. You climb cliffs without safety equipment? Sometimes it's called free climbing. The best climbers don't use ropes or harnesses. Just their hands and feet and their skill. The doctor felt dizzy. Humans deliberately risked death for entertainment. They found joy in activities that would terrify most collective species. What about fighting sports? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. Boxing, wrestling, mixed martial arts, fencing. People train for years to become better fighters. They study different techniques, learn how to hurt opponents efficiently. But surely these are rare activities? Jake shook his head. Not really. Most kids learn some kind of fighting. Schools teach it. Parents encourage it. We call it character building. Dr. Kailara's hands shook as she wrote. Human children were trained to fight from an early age. Their society encouraged violence as a positive trait. Later that day, Chief Psychologist Mordon came to continue his evaluation. He found Jake doing push-ups on the floor of his cell. Exercise is important, Jake said, standing up. Got to stay. In shape. Even here? Even now? Especially now. I don't know what's going to happen next. I need to be ready for anything. Mordon sat down and activated his recorder. Jake, I want to ask you about human conflict resolution. How do your people handle disputes between nations? Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. Depends on the dispute. Sometimes we negotiate. Sometimes we fight wars. Wars are still common among humans? Oh, yeah. We've got conflicts going on all over the planet right now. Some big, some small. Humans are always fighting about something. Morden felt sick. But surely your leaders tried to prevent these conflicts? Sure, but sometimes war is the only option. When someone threatens your people, your way of life, your resources, you have to fight back. How do human armies operate? Jake sat down on his bed. Very efficiently. We've been perfecting warfare for thousands of years. Modern human soldiers are incredibly well trained and well equipped. Could you describe a typical human soldier? Well, they train for months before they're allowed in combat. They learn weapons handling, tactics, survival skills, hand-to-hand combat. A single human soldier can operate alone for weeks behind enemy lines. Morden's compound eyes widened. One soldier can fight an entire army? Not fight an army head-on, but cause serious damage. Sabotage, assassination, intelligence gathering. Special forces soldiers are trained to be one-man armies. How many soldiers do humans have? Jake thought for a moment. Millions. Every major nation has a professional military, plus reserves, plus militia groups, plus private security companies. And their weapons? Everything from small arms to nuclear weapons. We've got guns that can kill a man from 2 miles away, bombs. That can destroy entire cities, chemical weapons that can kill thousands of people. Mordon felt faint. Why would you create such terrible weapons? Because the other side has them too. It's called mutually assured destruction. If everyone has planet-killing weapons, nobody uses them. But what if someone decides to use them anyway? Jake's smile was cold. Then we make sure they don't survive long enough to regret it. That evening, the senior staff met in the ship's conference room. Captain Vexto listened as Dr. Kailara and Mordon reported their findings. The human appears to be a walking weapons platform, Dr. Kailara said. His body is designed for combat. His mind is focused on survival and conflict, and his culture celebrates violence. It's worse than that, Mordon added. He's been gathering information about us. He knows our names, our duties, our daily routines. He's been studying our weaknesses. Commander Zarek looked up from his datapad. I've been analyzing Earth's military capabilities. Captain, they have weapons that could destroy this ship with a single shot. Impossible. Our shields can deflect most known weapons. Not these weapons. Humans have developed something called antimatter missiles. They also have particle beam weapons and quantum torpedoes. Captain Vextu felt the room spinning around him. How is this possible? Our initial scans showed primitive technology. They hid their true capabilities, Zarek said. The installations we saw were decoys. Their real military bases are underground or in space, shielded from our sensors. Doctor, Kylara spoke quietly. Captain, I believe the human has been manipulating us from the beginning. Every question he asks, every conversation we have, he's gathering intelligence. What kind of intelligence? Our numbers, our defenses, our psychology. He knows how we think, how we react to stress, what frightens us. Mordan nodded. He's been studying us as much as we've been studying him, maybe more. Captain Vextu walked to the window and looked out at Earth. The planet still looked peaceful, but now he knew better. Somewhere down there, the most dangerous species in the galaxy was planning its next move. We need to return him immediately, he said. Captain, Zarek said softly, long-range sensors are detecting movement near Earth. Multiple vessels heading in our direction. Vextu turned around. How many? 6 ships. They're moving faster than should be possible for human technology. Dr. Kylara felt her legs give out. She collapsed into a chair. They're coming for him. How could they track us? Jake's voice came from behind them. They turned to see him standing in the doorway, no longer wearing the simple clothes they had given him. Somehow, he had obtained a Zephyrian uniform. Because you never had me, Jake said calmly. I had you. The alien crew stared at Jake in shock. He stood in the doorway, wearing their uniform as if he belonged there. His calm smile made their insect-like skin crawl with fear. How did you get out of your cell? Captain Vextu demanded. Jake held up a small device he had built from parts of his cell's equipment. Your locks are pretty simple once you understand how they work. I've been walking around your ship for the past 2 days. Dr. Kylara felt her legs shake. Walking around? Where? Everywhere. Engineering deck, weapons systems, crew quarters, bridge access tunnels. Nice ship, by the way. Very advanced technology, but your security is terrible. Security Chief Grixenol burst into the room, his breathing heavy. Captain, the human cell is empty. The lock mechanism has been completely bypassed. I'm right. Here, Jake said, waving at Grixenol. No need to panic. Commander Zarek pointed his weapon at Jake. Do not move, human. Jake looked at the energy weapon with interest. That's a nice design. Plasma-based, I'm guessing? I saw the charging station for those in your armory. You might want to check that, by the way. Grixenol spoke into his communicator. Security team to armory, immediately. A voice crackled back through the device. Sir, the armory has been accessed. Several weapons are missing. The aliens all turned to stare at Jake. He shrugged. I was curious about your technology. Don't worry, I put everything back where I found it. Well, almost everything. What did you take? Vextu asked. Just some basic components. Nothing you'll miss. Jake's smile grew wider. I needed parts to build a communications device. Communications device? To talk to my people, of course. They've been worried about me. Dr. Kylara grabbed the captain's arm. He's been in contact with Earth this whole time. Jake nodded. Every day. I've been sending detailed reports about your ship, your crew, your capabilities. My superiors have been very interested in what I've learned. The ship's communication officer ran into the room. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the approaching human vessels. Put it on speakers, Vextu ordered. A strong, clear voice filled the room. Zephyrian vessel, this is Admiral Lisa Brooks of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to return our operative immediately. Jake's eyes lit up. That's Admiral Brooks. She's in charge of Earth's first contact protocols. You should feel honored, Captain. She doesn't personally handle many missions. Operative? Mordon whispered. You're not a construction worker? I am a construction worker, Jake said. I'm also a former Marine Corps intelligence specialist. When we detected your ship watching Earth, I volunteered for this mission. Vextu felt sick. Mission? To infiltrate your vessel and assess whether you represented a threat to humanity. The answer, by the way, is no. You're too peaceful to be dangerous to us. The communication system crackled again. Zephyrian vessel, you have 5 minutes to respond before we take action. Commander Zarek looked at his instruments. Captain, their ships are much faster than our database indicated. They're also heavily armed. How heavily armed? Vextu asked. Each vessel carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Jake whistled appreciatively. The Admiral brought the new destroyers. Those are impressive ships. Each one has antimatter, torpedoes, quantum cannons, and shield-penetrating missiles. Dr. Kyle Ara stared at him. You planned this entire situation? Not exactly. We knew you were watching us, so we prepared for possible contact. When you took me, it gave us the perfect opportunity to learn about you without appearing aggressive. We were studying you, Mordon said weakly, and I was studying you right back. The difference is, I'm better at it. Jake walked to the communication panel. May I, Captain? I think we should respond to Admiral Brooks before she gets impatient. Vextu nodded numbly. Jake activated the system. Admiral Brooks, this is Agent Martinez. Mission accomplished. The Zephyrians are peaceful explorers, not a threat. Recommend standard first contact protocols. Acknowledged, Agent Martinez. Are you in immediate danger? Jake looked around at the terrified aliens. No, ma'am. They've been perfect hosts, very cooperative. Stand by for extraction. Jake turned back to the alien crew. The Admiral will want to speak with your captain about establishing formal relations between our species. Formal relations? Vextu asked. Of course. Now that we know about each other, we need to set up proper diplomatic channels. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, that sort of thing. Security Chief Grixonal lowered his weapon. You're not going to attack us? Why would we attack you? You haven't hurt me, and you don't pose a threat to Earth. Humans only fight when we have to. Dr. Kylara shook her head. But you said humans are always at war. With each other, yes. We're a competitive species. But we're also practical. Fighting you would be a waste of resources. The communication system activated again. Zephyrian Captain, this is Admiral Brooks. I'd like to discuss the terms of my operative's release. Vextu stepped forward. Admiral, we meant no harm. We were simply conducting scientific research. I understand, Captain. However, abducting citizens of Earth without permission is considered an act of war under our laws. The bridge fell silent. Finally, Vextu spoke. What do you require for peaceful resolution? First, the immediate release of Agent Martinez. Second, a formal apology to the government of Earth. Third, full disclosure of your research methods and any data collected about our world. Jake raised his hand. If I may, Admiral, Captain Vextu and his crew have been professional throughout this operation. I recommend standard diplomatic immunity in exchange for cooperation. Agent Martinez, are you certain? Yes, ma'am. They're scientists, not soldiers. They were just doing their job. There was a pause. Very well. Captain Vexthu, do you agree to these terms? Yes, Admiral. We agree. Excellent. We'll begin transfer procedures immediately. Jake turned to Dr. Kailara. Doctor, I want to thank you for the excellent medical care. Your scans taught me a lot about Zephyrian technology. You used our medical equipment to study us? Of course. Every scan you ran on me also told me something about your instruments. Your computers are very sophisticated, but they're not designed for security. I was able to access most of your databases within the first day. Mordan stared at him. You hacked our systems? It wasn't really hacking. More like ... borrowing. I needed to learn about your species, your government, your military capabilities. And what did you learn? Vexthu asked. Jake's expression became serious. That the Galactic Collective is exactly what you claim to be. A peaceful alliance of intelligent species working together for mutual benefit. Does that change anything? It changes everything, Captain. Humans respect strength, but we also value cooperation. The Collective represents the kind of organization we might want to join someday. Dr. Kailara felt a glimmer of hope. You would consider joining us? Maybe. But first, we need to prove that we can be trusted. That's going to take time. The ship's sensors detected movement outside. Through the windows, they could see sleek human vessels approaching. The ships were dark and angular, clearly designed for war. Those are beautiful ships, Jake said admiringly. The new Horizon-class destroyers. Each one took 5 years to build. How many ships does Earth have? Commander Zarek asked. That's classified, Jake said with a smile. But I can tell you that what you're seeing is just a small part of our fleet. Admiral Brooks' voice came through the speakers again. Agent Martinez, prepare for transport. Jake nodded to the alien crew. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been educational. I hope this is the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between our peoples. A blue light surrounded Jake, and he began to fade away. Agent Martinez, Dr. Kailara called out. What should we tell the Collective about humanity? Jake's voice echoed as he disappeared. Tell them that humans are ready to talk. But also tell them that we're ready for anything else, too. The light faded, and Jake was gone. The aliens stood in silence, realizing that their simple research mission had just changed the galaxy forever. Jake materialized on the bridge of the human warship Horizon. The transport beam faded around him as he looked around at the familiar sight of human technology. The bridge was dark and efficient, with crew members working at their stations with quiet precision. Admiral Lisa Brooks turned from the main screen to face him. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her, the Zephyrian ship looked small and fragile against the stars. Welcome back, Agent Martinez. How do you feel? Jake stretched and smiled. Good to be home, Admiral. The aliens treated me well, but their food was terrible. I can imagine. What's your assessment? Jake became serious. The Zephyrians are exactly what they appear to be. Peaceful scientists with no military capabilities worth mentioning. Their ship has basic defensive shields and no real weapons. And the Galactic Collective? 47 species, all apparently similar to the Zephyrians. They've avoided warfare for centuries. They settle disputes through discussion and compromise. Admiral Brooks nodded. That matches what our long-range intelligence has gathered. Recommendations? Standard diplomatic contact. They're not a threat, but they have advanced technology that could be useful. Medical scanners, faster-than-light communication, energy. Systems worth trading for. The Admiral turned back to the main screen. Captain Vexthu, this is Admiral Brooks. Are you prepared to discuss formal relations between our species? Captain Vexthu's image appeared on the screen. His compound eyes looked tired and worried. Yes, Admiral. We would welcome such discussions. Excellent. However, there are conditions that must be met before we can proceed. What conditions? Admiral Brooks gestured to Jake. Agent Martinez will explain. Jake stepped forward. Captain, when you return to the collective, you need to make them understand something important about humanity. What do you mean? You need to tell them that we're not like the other species you've encountered. We don't think the same way, we don't react the same way, and we don't make the same assumptions about peaceful contact. Dr. Kailara appeared beside Captain Vexthu on the screen. Could you be more specific? Humans are predators, Doctor. We evolved by hunting and fighting and surviving in a hostile environment. That's made us very good at warfare, but it's also made us very careful about potential threats. Are you threatening us? Commander Zarek asked from off-screen. Jake shook his head. Not at all. I'm explaining why humans react differently than you might expect. When you abducted me, you thought you were conducting scientific research. From a human perspective, you were committing an act of war. Captain Vexthu looked confused, but we meant no harm. Intent doesn't matter to humans, Captain. Results matter. You took one of our people without permission. In human culture, that's kidnapping, and kidnapping is a serious crime. Admiral Brooks stepped forward. Agent Martinez is correct. Under Earth law, what you did was an act of aggression. However, we're willing to overlook this incident in the interest of establishing peaceful relations. What do you require? Vexthu asked. First, you will share all data collected about Earth and humanity with our diplomatic team. Second, you will provide us with detailed information about the Galactic Collective. Third, any future contact between our species will follow proper diplomatic protocols. Jake raised his hand. There's one more thing, Captain. You need to update your files on humanity. Update them how? Change our classification from primitive species to advanced military civilization. Make sure every ship in the collective knows that humans are not to be approached without proper authorization. Dr. Kailara looked nervous. You want us to classify your species as dangerous? We want you to classify us as what we are, Admiral Brooks said. A spacefaring civilization capable of defending itself. This protects both our species from misunderstandings. Captain Vexthu was quiet for a moment. Admiral, may I ask you a question? Of course. How long have you known about the collective? Admiral Brooks smiled. We've been monitoring Galactic communications for 15 years, Captain. We've known about most collective species for quite some time. Then why didn't you make contact sooner? Jake answered, because we needed to be ready first. Humans don't like being at a disadvantage. We spent those 15 years developing the technology and military capability to deal with galactic-level threats. The ships around us, Vexthu said slowly, they're not your only vessels, are they? Not even close, Admiral Brooks said. What you see here is a single patrol group. Earth has been preparing for galactic contact for over a decade. Commander Zarek appeared on screen. How many ships do you have? That's classified information, Commander. But I can tell you that Earth takes its defense very seriously. Jake looked at the alien crew on the screen. Captain, I want you to understand something. Humans aren't monsters. We don't go looking for fights. But we're always ready for one. What does that mean for the collective? Dr. Kailara asked. It means you have a choice, Admiral Brooks said. You can treat humanity as an equal partner and work with us toward mutual benefit. Or you can treat us as a primitive species and face the consequences. And what would those consequences be? Vexthu asked quietly. Jake's expression became cold. Humans don't like being looked down on, Captain. We especially don't like being treated as test subjects. If the collective decides we're too dangerous to deal with, we'll prove them right. Admiral Brooks held up a hand. However, we prefer cooperation. The collective has knowledge and technology that would benefit humanity. In return, we can offer protection and military expertise. Protection from what? Vexthu asked. Captain, Jake said, you've been living in a peaceful galaxy for centuries. But peace doesn't last forever. Sooner or later, you're going to encounter a species that doesn't share your values. When that happens, you'll need allies who know how to fight. The Zephyrian crew looked at each other nervously. They had never considered that their peaceful existence might be threatened. Are you saying there are hostile species in the galaxy? Dr. Kylara asked. There are always hostile species, Admiral Brooks said. The universe is a dangerous place. The collective has been lucky so far. Jake nodded. Humans can help you stay lucky. We're very good at dealing with hostile species. Captain Vexthu was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Admiral Brooks, Agent Martinez, I believe we understand each other now. I hope so, Captain. We will return to collective space and deliver your message. Humanity will be reclassified as a Category Alpha species. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means approach with extreme caution. It means full diplomatic protocols must be followed for any contact. It means humanity is considered a major galactic power. Admiral Brooks smiled. That's acceptable, Captain. Admiral, may I ask one final question? Go ahead. What if the collective decides that humanity is too dangerous to allow into galactic society? Jake and Admiral Brooks exchanged glances. Jake spoke first. Then the collective will learn why humans have survived for so long, Captain. We don't ask for permission to exist. Admiral Brooks nodded. Agent Martinez is correct. Humanity will take its place in galactic society with or without collective approval. We'd prefer to do it peacefully. Captain Vexthu understood the unspoken threat. I will make sure the collective understands the situation, Admiral. Thank you, Captain. Safe travels. The communication ended. Admiral Brooks turned to Jake. Well done, Agent. Your mission exceeded all expectations. Jake looked out. At the stars? Think they'll accept us, Admiral? They'll have to. The alternative is too frightening for them to consider. And if they don't? Admiral Brooks smiled coldly. Then we'll show them why humans earned the nickname, a species that never stops fighting. Jake nodded. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity was ready for whatever came next. The age of human isolation was over, and the universe would never be the same.